Xian Wanza told her that he had something to ask of you, and when Chang Jinshu still wanted to take his arm, he swung his arm in a faint manner, trying to avoid her, but he didn't avoid her, and Chang Jinshu gently took his arm again, not allowing him to refuse, telling him that he still had the next scenes to come. Chang Jinshu smiled and held his arm. Xian Wanza stood beside him with his pocket inserted, telling her it was okay, he would wait here. Ye Xian didn't expect Chang Jinshu to come to the theater today. He was worried that he couldn't find her assistant, but he sent her to him. The assistant brought over a cup of coffee and told Xian Wanza that little brother C just said in the team group that he wanted to bring Ye Xian in and asked if he agreed. Xian Wanza looked at the front fell in the water, conscientious filming Ye Xian, nodded. His assistant was a little surprised, not afraid of him to pester you. And the other side is acting. Ye Xian is filming Gu Chen drawing unconscious. Beside Jiang Xin is into the scene shouting, "Quickly wake up!" The character Ning Shino was dirty and wanted to give Gu Chen artificial respiration, but he didn't expect the man to be okay and pouted, knowing that he is pretending. Suddenly no good guess grabbed Gu Chen's face. "Get up quickly! Just now can scare her to death." Gu Chen did not expect to be discovered. Not far away is sitting on a rest chair Jiang Eveningzi, picked up a cup of water and took a sip, and told the assistant beside him, "Ye Xian is different from before. My acting skills have become so natural. Every move makes people not move their eyes." Jiang Xin took a piece of towel handed to Ye Xian. "Compliment her, just acted really good, but have to hurry to wipe. Be careful of cold." Ye took the towel handed over by Jiang Xin. She came by herself just fine. Ye was a little worried, although she wore a chest protector, but if she was accidentally found, it would be troublesome. Jiang Xin lowered her head and told her that she could call her Xiao Xin. While talking with Jiang Xin beside her, Ye Xian noticed Chen Jinshu's assistant holding a towel from the front. It was Xiao Wen. She went into the lounge alone. Inside, Xiao Wen opened a big bag, folded the towel neatly and was packing up the things inside. Suddenly she heard someone shouting at her, so she looked back with some confusion, only to see that it was Ye Xian. She was wearing a towel around her neck and pushed the door in, wanting to talk to Xiao Wen. Xiao Wen was a bit surprised. When she saw him coming in, she wanted to turn around and run away, saying, "I have nothing to talk with you." But Ye Xian pulled Xiao Wen's arm in time and didn't want her to run away. Ye Xian pulled Xiao Wen's arm in time and didn't want her to run away, but before Ye Xian could exert much force, he heard Xiao Wen close her eyes tightly and let out a cry of pain. When Ye Xian saw this, he let go his hand in a hurry and told Xiao Wen that he didn't mean any harm, and apologized to her, telling her that he didn't exert any force on her. But Ye Xian suddenly thought of something and went forward to hold Xiao Wen's shoulder, asking her if Chang Jinshu hit you again. But Xiao Wen closed her eyes and only said that she would deal with her own matters on her own. "So don't mind your own business, Mr. Yi." Then she pressed the door handle and walked out. But she didn't expect Ye Xian to chase out behind her and shouted Zhou Lu at her. She frowned in place. How did she know her real name? Ye Xian looked at her from behind and told her a lot of details about Zhou Lu, who had been working in the theater since she was 14 years old and learning to be a star's assistant from her master. Zhou Lu had followed several stars, but Chen Jinshu was the longest one. When Zhou Lu heard this, she turned back angrily and questioned, "Why are you checking on me?" Ye Xian honestly told Zhou Lu, "Because he wants you to expose Chen Jinshu's abuse of you. Don't reject it in a hurry. Watch this video first." The grandmother in the video said that Ye Xian not only helped her pay off the medical bills, but also invited the best doctor to help her. He is a great benefactor. Now the only one who is relieved is her. This person is Zhou Lu's grandmother. Zhou Lu watched this video and couldn't help but cover her mouth and cried. Ye Xian told her that because your grandmother suffered from severe diabetes and needed high medical expenses, Chen Jinshu just grabbed you by the soft underbelly, taking out a large sum of money and promising that you will make regular payments to the hospital, but demanding that you have to put up with and keep everything she does secret, including the abuse. Ye Xian shouted at her, "Now that I'm willing to help you out of your misery, why did you refuse? And you suffered so much at Chang Jinshu's side. It's your grandmother who knows. She will be sad." Zhou Lu cried and pleaded with him not to tell her grandmother and promised to identify Chen Jinshu, but she didn't have any concrete evidence. Ye Xian took out his mobile phone and showed it to her. "Here are the recordings and the list of your hospital treatments in the past few years." Zhou Lu rubbed her crying eyes and asked Ye Xian why he was helping her. Ye Xian looked at her with a smile and extended her hand to Zhou Lu. "Because I want you to be my personal assistant." She warmly invited Zhou Lu. Zhou Lu heard this. The expression on her face was surprised. She didn't understand why. She couldn't help but ask Ye Xian, "Are you kidding?" Zhou Lu was not confident. She thought, Mr. Yi is talented and good-looking. He will be a star in the future, and she is just an unprofessional assistant. Ye Xian thinks that he is now dressed as a man in a male troupe, so he must choose a trustworthy assistant. He has helped her, so he should be absolutely loyal to him, Xiao Lu asked when she was going to expose Chang Jingshu, but Ye Xian was already walking towards the door and told her that she would wait for the end of the broadcast of Workplace Storm. On the other side, Chang Jingshu and Jiang Wenze were sitting in the restaurant. Chang Jingshu was holding the menu on her mobile phone, smiling and asking Jiang Wenze what she wanted to eat. Chang Jingshu just opened the menu. Jiang Wenze asked him directly, "Rotten sour plum award thing, is it you're doing?" Not give her the slightest mercy. Chang Jingshu frowned in her seat when she heard this. A drop of false sweat slid down her cheeks, but she still pretended to look unintelligent. Jiang Wenze told her that in the video Fei Yunchuan handed over, there was the entire process of your threat, and that Big Brother had already checked out the whole story. Chang Jingshu's face is very ugly. How could it be Bo Tingshen? Why would he check this? Thinking that the person she's messing with is Ye Xian, who has been the subject of 1,000 accusations. Jiang Wenze hates him. Bo Tingshen should also hate him. Jiang Wenze face expressionless. Should not I ask you why you do this? Chang Jingshu held Jiang Wenze's hand in fear. Ye Xian has been pestering you for the past 2 years, and I know you're in the way of the Bo family's young master's identity. I know you are in the way of the Bo family's young master status, but I don't care. That's why I want to teach him a lesson. Jiang Wenze shook off her hand fiercely, but he's not the same as he used to. Chang Jingshu didn't expect Jiang Wenze to do this to her, so she stood up with an ugly look on her face. That was all Ye Xian's pretense, but Jiang Wenze just ruthlessly shattered her illusions and asked suspiciously what difference there was between what she was doing now and what he had done before. Then said Fei Yunchuan use power for personal gain. Has Bin Star Entertainment dismissed. As for your big brother handed over to me. Left a few thin face. You go to apologize to Ye Xian. Chang Jingshu had stood silent. Heard this angry shouted, "Let me apologize to Ye Xian. Is impossible?" Jiang Wenze saw that she was still not willing to bow down, and coldly turned around and walked forward to tell her, "It's okay if you don't apologize, but if you piss off your big brother, I won't be." After saying this, Jiang Wenze pushed the door and walked out. Chang Jingshu hurriedly stood up and watched as he really didn't care about himself. She clenched her fists in anger. She went crazy and slammed the glass of water on the table on the floor. She wanted me to apologize to Ye Xian. It's a dream. She was so angry that she gritted her teeth, and suddenly thought that on the weekend, she had to accompany her mother to visit Master Bo, and she still had Grandpa Bo as her backer. A few days later on the weekend, Chang Jingshu and her mother arrived at the Bo family villa. She purposely waited at the door and bumped into Bo Tingshen, who was pushing out the door. Chang Jingshu jogged towards the front door of the house. She deliberately played a trick and pretended to accidentally bump into Bo Tingshen's shoulder. Then she made a face like she was shocked, inadvertently revealing her reddened eyes with tears at the corners. Then she raised her head in confusion and looked at Bo Tingshen, who she had accidentally bumped into, as if she hadn't expected to meet here at all. With a pitiful face, she stammered and told him that she had come to visit Grandpa Bo, and that she was now going back. Seeing Bo Tingshen's cold and unenthusiastic reply, Chang Jingshu hurriedly turned around and ran all the way out. Bo Tingshen looked at her back and asked the maid if this was a good time to go back. When Bo Tingshen looked at her back, he asked the maid what was going on, and the maid respectfully replied that Miss Chen had suffered at the second young master's place and wanted to let but the old man did not agree. Beside the assistant to see this, they asked the need to go to check the bottom of Miss Chen. Bo Tingshen thought recently also quite clever. When Bo Tingshen walked into the house, he saw his mother Wen Yan sitting on the sofa, watching TV and praising the adorable Xiao Gu in the show. The assistant turned his head to look at the TV and was shocked to see who was in it. The lady has always been a stargazer, so it's hard to believe that she likes Ye Xian. Bo Tingshen obviously also noticed the person on the TV, so he also walked to the sofa, straight in his suit and Saturday beside his mother. When Yan was a bit surprised when she asked why Tingshen was here, he thought to himself, could it be that today? His filial piety is so great that he decided to take some time out to spend with her. When Yan turned around and asked her son if he recognized this young man, Ye Xian, the one who had examined the fake paintings at your grandfather's birthday banquet last time. When Yan was very happy and went on to say that he was handsome. The actor Gu was funny and affectionate, and he was also very romantic. He was simply the dream lover of his mother when she was young. At this time, when she hurriedly pointed to the TV, which was playing to Ye Xian's overbearing embrace of the girl in his arms, who dares to film again? I Gu Chan will not be polite. When Yan is very excited to ask her son, how is it not very handsome? But Bo Tingshen just indifferently spit out two words. His mom can't listen to him at all, but Ye Xian has done a great job playing little Gu, especially the interaction with the female lead. It's so sweet. Mom hears that they are together outside of the theater as well. It's really romantic. Bo Tingshen stands up with an even colder voice and says it's impossible. When Yen was a bit confused and asked why, if she knew something, Bo Tingshen straightened his collar and told his mom that he likes men. His mother was dumbfounded behind him, and the assistant thought to herself that Mr. Bo was so cruel, and that his wife, who had a hard time recovering her star and was still a CP fan, was actually bae. When the two of them were about to walk to the door, Bo Tingshen asked the assistant beside him what was going on with Ye Xian and Jianxin. The assistant told him that a few days ago, when Workplace Wind and Cloud was broadcast, the CP played by Ye Xian and Jianxin in the drama was on fire. So Bo Tingshen took out his phone to check it. The assistant went on to say that some of the fans have sprung up their real-life CP and named them Envy and Sheen, which means dedication of heart. And these pictures, where the media captured the two, Jianxin sent his own watch. So look at their romance should be the real hammer. Bo Tingshen see this. Star Entertainment trainee contract period is not allowed to fall in love. He is not aware of it. Is not the company system in his eyes as a setup. Instructed the assistant to call out Ye Xian now. Soon the two arrived at the company downstairs. The assistant called Ye Xian down, arranged for him to enter the car, told him that in general in the wait. Ye Xian got into the car and asked Bo Tingshen what happened when he suddenly looked for me in the middle of the night. Bo Tingshen asked him what happened to the photos of him and Jianxin. I didn't expect Ye Xian to come up with a sentence. What kind of photo is it? He was puzzled and confused, as if he really didn't know about it. Bo Tingshen saw him like this and knew he wasn't pretending. He was a little happy in his heart and smiled subtly at the corner of his mouth. But still, he moved closer to him, as close as if he wanted to take him into his arms, and held up the photos in his hand, asking, "These are the ones?" Only to see Bo Tingshen propped up behind Ye Xian with one hand holding up the mobile phone. Ye Xian reminded with an embarrassed face, "Bo General Manager, you're leaning into close." Bo Tingshen didn't pay any attention to his words. He just got closer and lowered his head and asked, "Is the company system a mere decoration in front of you?" Ye Xian is confused. What the hell is this situation? Mr. Bo's thighs are close to his own thighs. It's too ambiguous. So she thought about Bo Tingshen's heartbeat, his body heat and breath enveloping her, and Ye Xian looked at the man in front of her with a red face, very embarrassed. The distance between Bo Tingshen and him is only a fraction of a centimeter. Close to her cheek and asked, "Want to think of how to atone for the crime?" Ye Xian was seduced, thinking that this atmosphere is too much for people to get on. He is the one who wants me to die in the original law. Can't be confused by him. So she began to seriously look at the photos in the mobile phone. Ye Xian just has not been paying attention to see. Now see clearly. I did not think it was this group of photos. He quickly waved his hand and explained to him that he was wrongly accused. All the photos were taken in a borrowed position, and that day was the day when Director Lee celebrated the big rise in Ra team. Then he told him with an aggrieved face, "You must believe me, Mr. Bo. There is no other relationship between myself and Jianxin except for being peers." Ye Xian is a bit worried. Will Bo Tingshen believe him? He won't just want to take advantage of the opportunity to blackmail me about zero decree, right? Otherwise, how would he have the time to care about my gossip? Bo Tingshen looked at her in silence for a while. Bo Tingshen looked at her silently for a while, as if he was judging whether she was lying or not, and asked Ye Xian if there was anything else. She only begged Bo to let herself off the hook, seeing that it didn't pursue the matter. Ye Xian was relieved. Bo Tingshen Saturday backed down and asked when the clothes would be sent to her. Ye Xian quickly waved his hand and told him that the clothes had been sent to the dry cleaner. The first time after it is cleaned, it will be sent to you. Is it possible to rush the clothes? That is the real purpose of him looking for me. Really worried that I will swallow the 2 sets of custom. Then, like a puppy wagging its tail, he stretched out his hand to Mr. Bo. The total dry cleaning fee for the clothes is 16,800. You see whether it is Alipay or Wicket. Bo Tingshen saw him like this, and looked at Ye Xian with a feigned voice. "Do you want my contact information?" Ye Xian was so scared that he opened his mouth wide, and his whole body exploded. "I don't dare. Mr. Bo, I don't dare to give me a lot of guts." Ye Xian was panicking during the period, but he accidentally got rid of one of the buttons on Bo Tingshen's chest shirt. Bo Tingshen saw the situation and said, "I think you have a lot of guts. Not only did you dirty my 2 sets of clothes, but now you are adding a new account." Ye Xian frowned and just wanted to argue that it was clearly you, but a look from Bo Ting Shen scared the rest of his words back. He hurriedly said, Mr. Bo is very smart, handsome and rich. My role in this film was not much, and my remuneration was deducted by the company. So Bo Tingshen had to let go and ask, how do you want to deal with it? He had a look of weakness. Needlework is not bad, so your button's back in it. After hearing this, Bo Tingshen immediately lifted his mobile phone and made a call, ordering Pan Kai to buy some needles and threads and send them to the car. Pan Kai quickly bought the needle and thread and handed it to Ye Xian through the car window, asking for the needle and thread mobile phone. What does he want to do? Ye Xian smiles at Pan Kai and then takes the needle and thread box in a hurry, thinking that Mr. Bo is really swift. He takes out the needle and thread and approaches Bo Tingshen, reminding him that the light here is not very good, but he will try his best, so don't hold back if you are uncomfortable. Ye Xian gently puts the button in the correct position, then takes out the needle and thread and gently threads it into the buttonhole. Bo Tingshen can't help but swallow his saliva when he sees this. He can't help but turn his head sideways and go to remind Ye Xian not to move, but Ye Xian looks at him with a difficult look on his face. There is no way to sew if I don't move. Bo Tingshen takes off his clothes when he gets home and walks over to the rubbish bin, holding them up as he is about to throw them in. But he stopped and looked at the clothes, not knowing what to think. So he lifted it out, but he didn't expect to freeze for a moment. Bo Tingshen looked at the buttons on the dress. They were sewn crookedly and the threads were running everywhere. He commented how ugly it was, still didn't throw away the dress, but thought to save the environment recently. Right, and put away the dress neatly folded with his mouth on his head. On that set, a girl with a white dress and red hair was standing alone outside the church. She looked around suspiciously and couldn't help but shout, Gu Chen, where the hell are you? But she didn't expect that familiar voice to ring out behind her, calling out to Ning Xiner as her sister. Ning Xiner frowned for a moment. She didn't expect that. Gu Chen was dressed in a straight and slim suit, dressed very handsomely, standing behind Ning Xiner and waiting for her with his hand outstretched all the time. Surprised, Ning Xiner turned back and looked at the person standing in front of her. Gu Chen was similarly waiting for her to turn back, and saw her turn her head and look at Ning Xiner affectionately. The director's team shouted, It's done! It's done! Congratulations to Mr. Gu for killing the film. Ye Xian, who had been by her side now, was suddenly a bit sad and unwillingly jumped into her arms and shouted at her. Ye Xian frowned for a while. He was a bit puzzled and asked with an embarrassed face, What's wrong with you? Ye Xian. On the surface, he was calm, but his heart was already crying out in fear. Xin shon wan lo wan le da ting guan zhang ji shou. Gunan guan yu lo lo bao bao. Yao shi bei go zai pai dao. Bao zhen hui bu hui yo lai wei wo shi wen. Ye Xian didn't dare to hug back. Ye Xian in her arms was still whimpering, saying she couldn't let go of Gu Chen, and even more so, she couldn't let go of herself. Not too far away, when the director saw this scene, he thought that since Ye Xian entered the group, Ye Xian had been chasing after him, and this young guy must have been touched in his heart. Ye Xian suddenly realized that it was like this. If you can't let go of Gu Chen, just watch the show a few more times. You will always get tired of watching it. But Ye Xian's face was red, and there were still tears in her eyes. She looked at him shyly. What if I can't bear to see you go? There's nothing to be sad about. We're in the same entertainment industry. We'll definitely meet again in the future. Maybe we'll work together again. I'm not dead if Gu Chen is gone. The director on the side could not stop coughing. Did not hear that people are confessing? It is true that the young IQ is infinitely high. IQ is still in the cradle. Zhou Lu was packing up her things in the dressing room at this time, sorting out Chang Jinshu's things from the dressing table. Chang Jinshu hugged her arms and asked Zhou Lu, What are you still doing? You're just like a pig. Pack up and hurry. Zhou Lu stopped moving when she heard this. She didn't want to put up with this uncertain woman anymore, so she turned back to Chang Jinshu and told her, I've been working as your assistant for 2 years. And this drama has finally wrapped up, so I'm formally asking for your resignation now. Chang Jinshu had a look of contempt on her face as she stared down at Zhou Lu. I didn't hear you wrong. You want to leave your job. Is your grandmother sick? Are you sick or something? You're talking to me like that. You've got money on the side, haven't you? Zhou Lu didn't expect her to speak so harshly. Chang Jinshu said angrily, You speak politely. Chang Jinshu did not care what she said. His face grim lifted Zhou Lu's chin and threatened him. The men in the entertainment industry are all snakes and devils. On the surface of the gentlemen in the back of the money-grabbing and sex-crazed generation. Don't be cheat. Zhou Lu shook off her hand angrily and said that Ye Xian is not that kind of person. Then Chang Jinshu realized that she was actually going to work for Ye Xian as an assistant. She thought with a gloomy face. It's Ye Xian again. Everyone is abandoning me because of her. She got angry and threw everything on the ground. Chang Jingshu was so angry that she clenched her fists. Bo checked because of this person. Even Ingzi chastised me because of him. Even this little assistant dared to do this to me. At this moment, Ye Xian's mobile phone rang and the caller it was Zhou Lu. When Ye Xian saw this, he quickly picked up the phone and asked Zhou Lu. But Zhou Lu shouted on the other side of the phone that it's not good. You've been hacked on the hot search. Chang Jingshu forwarded a big long article of Black You quickly get up and take a look. Ye Xian didn't expect. I don't know what kind of demon this bastard is doing again, so he took out his laptop to check it out. Zhou Lu was still saying, this Chang Jin is very quiet. Is Chang Jingshu's big fan? Wrote a 1,000 words long article to denounce you. Summarize in fact 3 points. 5 big words on the title. Ye Xian 3 sins. Ye Xian read what this person wrote. Her heart thought can be thought. She controlled the mouse wheel and kept scrolling to see the article that slammed herself. Also saw Chang Jingshu on the microblogging. Told you to hold back? How to still send out? Cannot help but spit in the heart. Good a aggrieved white lotus flower. Ye Xian's face was dark and he thought, I wanted to wait for the drama to finish airing before I took action against her. But now that she's picking a fight first, don't blame myself for not being Bo Tingshen is in his office listening to his assistant's report. Ye Xian and Chang Jingshu had an argument, and now Star Entertainment is using the abandon the car to protect the commander-in-chief. After listening to Bo Tingshen's report, he asked how the matter he asked you to look into last time was progressing. The information has been sent to your mailbox. After reading it, Bo Tingshen asked his assistant to release the information. The assistant was shocked. Put Chang Jingshu's black information out. Bo is going to abandon the commander-in-chief to protect the car. To protect Ye Xian this small car. There is a new message on the tablet, and he is shocked by the content. The assistant hurriedly picks up the tablet and holds it up, showing Bo Tingshen that Ye Xian sent out a microblogging response, and also released the audio of Chang Jingshu's abuse of her assistant. The cast and crew of Workplace Storm, and for all left comments below to support him. Public opinion instantly reversed. The assistant put away the tablet and asked Bo Tingshen if Miss Chang's black materials were still being sent out. But Bo Tingshen's expression was pale, and he didn't send them out. Finally, he sent a statement to terminate the contract directly. The assistant was shocked. Are you trying to protect Ye Xian? Bo Tingshen's words are not true. I didn't protect him. I let Evening Z deal with Chang Jingshu. But not only was she not punished, she also acted arrogantly. Shouldn't I fire such an employee? When the assistant heard this, she hurriedly answered, but how come she still has the feeling that she is protecting Ye Xian? Soon to the evening, inside the Chang family villa, Chang mother reached out and slapped Chang Jingshu hard, scolding her. You still have a bit of a big star now, losing to an 18th line, not to mention that even the company doesn't want you anymore. You should go to Bo's house and kneel down to apologize and beg Mr. Bo to take back his order. Chang Jingshu is very unconvinced. It's all because of that Ye. It's all because of the Ye Xian. I'm going to kill him. Chang's mother looked at her with a cruel expression. Chang Jingshu said that her mother didn't understand that the termination of Star Entertainment's contract with me must be a temporary crisis communication, and I am the second youngest daughter of TH. Chen's father was looking at his mobile phone and kept saying, it's over. He told the 2 people still arguing over there that the Bo family had asked me to come over to talk about breaking off the engagement, and both the mother and daughter looked gloomy. Ye Xian was brushing her teeth at home, listening to her agent tell her that the audition time for the white man's toothpaste had already been set. The agent praised her for being a coy carp. Not only has she gained more fans after this incident, but her reputation has also been cleansed. He told her that the company has given her a new driver and car, and that the audition will be held tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. at the Tianhua Mansion. So I wish you good luck in advance. The staff of Tianhua Mansion was busy setting up the scene, ready for the audition later. Ye Xian brought her assistant Zhou Lu to the audition location, and both of them looked surprised that it was such a big battle, and looking at the actors auditioning in front of them. White toothpaste has a lot of strong competitors this time. An athletic big boy smiled as the staff arranged for him to take a break. Ye Xian thought to himself that this person was Zhang Hao. Zhang Hao is the most competitive in this batch. He debuted 5 years ago. He is in the 3rd line, and the school drama he starred in has just finished airing, and that heat is still there. Zhang Hao also noticed Ye Xian standing not far away at this time, and he stared at him with an unpleasant look on his face. When it passed by him, he hit Ye Xian's shoulder hard, and Ye Xian couldn't help but let out a cry of pain. She turned back, a little angry, and just wanted to speak, but she was interrupted before she could speak out. Zhang Hao said to Ye Xian with hostility. You are such a big man. You should go home and exercise more. Zhou Lu noticed this side and hurriedly poked her body to ask if she was alright. Ye Xian told her she was fine. This Zhang Hao didn't know her at all. Zhou Lu reminded him that he still remembered Luan Xiaoyao. Then at Ye Xian and heard that Zhang Hao was the girl's incumbent. Ye Xian suddenly realized that there is actually this relationship, hidden quite well, but it has nothing to do with himself. Zhou Lu told Ye Xian Chen Jinshu and Luan Xiaoyao are good girlfriends. The last microblogging slander. She also retweeted it. It is estimated that in front of Zhang Hao said bad things about you. Ye Xian understands. So it is like this. It is Chen Jinshu again. This woman is really a ghost that doesn't exist. Zhang Hao's assistant ran into the audition room, carrying a lot of drinks, shouting to the staff to stop. Hao invited everyone to drink coffee and eat sushi. At this time, Zhang Hao walked to Ye Xian with a plate of sushi and apologized to her. I'm really sorry. It didn't hurt you, right? Ye Xian was skeptical and thought that this person had changed his tactics. He frowned at the plate of sushi he was carrying and had to take it and tell him it was all right. He frowned and looked at the plate of sushi and told him that he was fine and thanked him for the sushi. Zhang Hao then turned around and winked before he was ready to leave, smiling and telling him tea. Zhou Lu beside him was puzzled and asked him why he still accepts his things. Must be not good for you, because he wanted to see what this person is playing tricks. So she reached out with chopsticks, rattling broken one of the sushi, found that the sushi actually inserted to pins. As expected, she picked up the needles and looked at them. Zhou Lu was so shocked that she covered her mouth. How can this person be so vicious? Put needles inside the food. After saying that, she was angry and pulled Ye Xian to confront Zhang Hao. But Ye Xian told him that it was useless and he would not admit it. At this moment, she heard someone talking behind her. The last ball must win. So Ye Xian turned her head to see. She didn't expect that there was a tennis court here. She thought of an idea. It just so happened that she was pretty good at tennis. So Ye Xian pulled up the corner of his mouth and smiled slightly. He made a special trip to find Zhang Hao and came in front of him to tell him, Hao, thanks for the sushi. It was delicious. Ye Xian looked at him with a smile. He just ate too much. Why don't we go to the next gym and play tennis? Zhang Hao was skeptical. He thought Ye Xian really ate the sushi. How come he was not hurt at all? A few actors who passed by heard that they were going to play tennis and wanted to remind Ye Xian that she was known as the little prince of tennis when she was a student. Zhang Hao came to her. We have to say in advance, if you are not careful to get hurt, the consequences will be borne by yourself. Ye Xian smiled and smiled. I believe you won't hurt me, she said, and the two of them were ready to go to the tennis court. Zhou Lu was worried and pulled her back, not wanting her to go. Ye Xian gave her a soothing look. I'll be right back. You stay here. When it's my turn to audition, just come over and shout at me. Outside the stadium, Bo Tingshen and Shengguan Yuanli are sitting on the chairs outside talking. At this moment, Shengguan Yuanli suddenly noticed that there was someone inside the stadium who looked like Ye Xian. Bo Tingshen hears these words, so he quickly turns his head to look inside the arena, only to see Ye Xian holding the tennis racket high in the air. His eyes are focused on the tennis ball flying over. Zhang Hao's face was ugly. He didn't expect Ye Xian to be able to catch his own ball. He was going to use his full strength next. Shengguan Yuanli looked at the sparring in the arena and felt a bit surprised. Not only the acting skills were very different from the rumors, but the reputation was also different. Even this Zhang Hao, who is not very famous and has a terrible temper, couldn't play ball with him. Guess what that means? But Bo Tingshen doesn't really agree with his thoughts and only faintly asks, do you think they are playing for fun? In the arena, Zhang Hao, to Ye Xian with all his strength, violently hit a ball, only to see the ball constantly rotating. To Ye Xian's speed rushed over. The corner of Ye Xian's mouth pulled up a smirk of triumph, not a trace of panic on his face. Thinking that he was finally here, he jumped up to catch the tennis ball and hit the ball cleanly again. The tennis ball flew towards Zhang Hao with the speed of a thunderbolt. Zhang Hao didn't have time to catch the ball, and the tennis ball flew towards his face and hit his nose hard. When the people in the stadium saw this scene, they were startled and frownsy in place. Zhang Hao kept screaming in pain and fell hard on the ground, then kept covering his face. Ye Xian looked at Zhang Hao, who fell on the ground in a happy mood. His tone was light. I just hit it casually. I didn't think you would use your face. Zhang Hao climbed up from the ground, loosened the hand covering his face. His face was dark and gloomy, threatening to kill him, and suddenly realized that his speech was leaking out. By the time he realized, his teeth had fallen out of his mouth. Zhang Hao's face became even more ugly. His friend was worried and shouted at him. Ye Xian also smiled and comforted him. Don't be angry, brother Hao. Before playing, we have agreed, if accidentally injured, the consequences of their own. He waved his racket and reminded him that he should go to the hospital to get his teeth fixed, and be careful of being squatted by the paparazzo, which would be bad for his appearance. Zhang Hao was so angry that he stood in place and shouted angrily. Then he swung his fist and rushed towards Ye Xian. Ye Xian did not expect that this person really dared to make a move, which was bad. At this moment, a hand suddenly stretched out and held Zhang Hao's fist tightly. Zhang Hao was angry and cursed. Zhang Hao cursed angrily. Before he had time to curse, his wrist was quickly removed by the person who came. Zhang Hao's wrist kept on spasming and trembling, and he opened his mouth with several teeth missing and screamed in pain. Finally he saw the person coming. It was Bo Tingshen. Zhang Hao kept begging him for mercy and shouting for his father. Ye Xian looked at Bo Tingshen with a happy expression and shouted happily for Mr. Bo. When Ye Xian saw this, he secretly hid behind Bo Tingshen and blew his ear. You have such excellent genes, so you can't give birth to this kind of scum. Hit him hard. He bullied me. Zhang Hao saw Ye Xian even said so even more angry, opened his mouth to scold him hard. But just halfway through his sentence, Bo Tingshen began to ruthlessly break his wrist, and with a click of his bones, he let go of him. Zhang Hao's face immediately turned pale and sweaty, covering his own wrist, not daring to move a bit. This guy who is full of muscles is so unbeatable. In front of General Manager Bo, are his muscles just for show? At this time, Zhang Hao came back to his senses, and finally saw that the person who pinched his wrist was actually Bo Tingshen, the head of Bo's plutocracy. Finding out that the person who grabbed him could not be messed with, he hurriedly started to run away, apologizing and saying he didn't do it on purpose. Ye Xian now pounds Bo Tingshen's back and quietly praises him. Mr. Bo, you're great. You're really great. When Shumguan Yunli saw him like this, he asked Ye Xian, do you need to be so dogged? Ye Xian saw the visitor and waved his hand to greet him. Ye Xian looked at him happily. I specially paid attention to your microblogging. Shumguan Yunli thought that he was still a bit conscientious, and thought that he had long forgotten about him. Bo Tingshen suddenly stood beside Ye Xian at this time. His face darkened and asked if he had finished catching up. Ye Xian was stagnant. Ye Xian was stupefied, and thought to himself, Mr. Bo's mood seems to be very bad. Is it because of Zhang Hao? At this moment, Ye Xian notices that Shumguan Yunli has instructed his assistant, Xiaonan, to fetch a bottle of water and hand sanitizer. Ye Xian is puzzled. Shumguan Yunli told him that your family Bo always has a cleanliness fetish, and when he encounters other people, especially shameless people like Zhang Hao, his mood will become very bad. Ye Xian suddenly realized, so that's how it works. Give me the stuff. Let me do it. After all, Bo always touches him because of me. Then he squeezed the hand sanitizer on Bo Tingshen's palm and said to Bo Tingshen, please wash your hands. Ye Xian waited for a while and saw that he was hesitant to move. He looked puzzled and was a little confused for a moment. He thought to himself, what does Bo mean by this? Why isn't he rubbing his hands? It doesn't want me to rub my hands. So he stretched out his hand a little stiffly and asked him tentatively, are you waiting for me to rub your hands together? Shumguan Yunli looked unconvinced. How can this be? But before he could finish his sentence, Bo Tingshen interrupted him and said one word coldly and briefly, rub. Ye Xian was really shocked. He had a look of being struck by lightning and frowned in place for a while. Then he obediently bent down and kissed Bo Tingshen's arse. I'll do as I'm told, he said, and then he stretched out his hand. Ye Xian cries bitterly in his heart. Bo Tingshen must be playing a trick on him. When Bo Tingshen straightens his palm, Ye Xian probes his fingertips and touches it gently. Then the two palms of their hands are pressed together, creating a lot of bubbles from the constant friction. Ye Xian is a bit shy and thinks to herself, Mr. Bo's hands are long and even, and his palms are exceptionally warm, so it's so comfortable to touch. But what is unexpected is that Bo Tingshen suddenly bends his fingertips down and holds Ye Xian's hand with interlocked index fingers. Ye Xian's face turned even redder. She didn't expect her hand to be held so ambiguously by Mr. Bo, only to hear Bo Tingshen shouting at her. Immediately after asking him several questions, Star Entertainment is letting you compete so viciously in the direction of the stadium violence to solve the competitors.